Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order our meeting tonight, Friday, December 21st. We're going to open it up to our Pledge of Allegiance. Councilman Charette, would you please lead us?
Please join me as we pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman Charette. At this time, I will open it up for public comments. The first person is Andrea Nason. Yes, ma'am, please.
Hi, my name's Andrea Nisis, and I'm just your average person. I'm a citizen of San Bernardino, and I just wanted to make a comment about Andrea Miller. Andrea Miller is not for the public. She is not for the people. She is here for herself, and I don't know who else. But I just want to you to know, I sat in her office after the mayor asked me to meet with her on a Monday following Martin Luther King holiday. And he said, just go to her office, she'll help you. I went there for our meeting. I sat there for 2 hours. I read her, see right now what she's doing? She totally ignores you. And I'm a person. I have feelings. I've come here for my 3 minutes. Can't you give that to me? Can't you? I'm serious. I'm really serious. You do this to every person, the public that comes here. I've watched it for over and over and over. And it's so friggin' rude. I am sorry, Andrea Miller. You do not belong dealing with people. And it's just wrong you have her in a position like this. I've met with her 7 times, and 7 times she did not show up. She went home, or I never met with her. She never emailed me. She never called me. I know every person in that lobby's name because I've been there so often waiting for her. And I just really think it's sad that you have someone like that, and I don't know what kind of pull she has to get this job, but I'm not anybody that's going to help her. So obviously, she doesn't have time for me. She's still ignoring me. And I find that that's really heartbreaking that you have someone like that in your public office. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Kathy Rainbolt. Ms. Rainbolt, welcome.
Thank you. I'm Kathy Rainbolt, a third-generation resident. My children are fourth generation, my grandchildren, fifth generation, still residing in the city. Not many tax-paying residents can say that. I want to begin by speaking about something that has been bothering me for several weeks now. Mayor Valdivia, I know you have been busy and have had a lot on your plate. With the election, and it must feel like you've been dodging bullets. But I am still waiting for a reply from my email I sent you on December the 3rd regarding the lack of any type of memorial or honoring of the terrorist attack in your ward on December 2nd. Remember that date that we were never going to forget? Sandra, what happened? You are so much smarter than this. You've been used and abused. I counted you as the one to always do your homework. What happened? When you moved here, you were the first one to step up and help me with I Am San Bernardino and our adopted Bluebird Trail. You must put San Bernardino first in order for us all to thrive. I don't have to remind any of you, or maybe I do, that this city has a history of not being able to keep any of its city managers for any length of time, which only shows the surrounding cities our political instability and our negative message to anyone who wants to set up a business here, buy a home, get a job, or invest. It's my opinion that most of you would admit that some will view this tactic today as just another example of corruption and the reputation the city is known for. This last year, I have been more optimistic. The capital budget has been completed, along with an opportunity to bring capital to this city. If a decision is made to terminate the city manager, this will put the city where it was pre-bankruptcy, and it will undo most of the economic progress that's already been made. If she leaves, you all know what happens next. The people behind her will follow suit. And how much will that cost us? May I finish? Her experience is beyond reproach. Her ethics, her intelligence, her fresh, positive ideas that have already made a positive impact on this city. She knows how to lead and leads by her staunch belief in a strong team who takes direction and action. If she is terminated without cause, we lose one of the hardest, workhorse-oriented employees in this city. This city cannot afford another mark against it. This is her contract. What is it worth? Is it worth the paper it's written on? Is it? Is it, Sandra? Is it, Mr. Mayor? Thank you.
Our next speaker is Nancy Harmony.
Mr. City, Dias, my name's Harry Hatch. That's my wife. She signed up
Okay.
so that I could get 6 minutes.
All right. So, Ms. Hatch, you won't, are you waiving? You don't want to speak tonight?
You've taken my place, taken my 3 minutes.
Mayor, I just want to inform you that the rules of procedure for the council prohibit the sharing of time. Each public comment is entitled to 3 minutes.
It's been done before.
Not recently, not since those rules. were
Sir,
put in
you're on
place.
for 3 minutes. Please, go ahead.
Thank you. I don't even know where to start. This place is supposed to be a thriving city, and it's not. It was working its way back there, but it's not going to go there. Ms. Ybarra, you like facts and figures. 214,000 plus people live within the city. Of that, about 17% can't vote. They're underage. That leaves about 177,000 people that are eligible to vote. Of that, 90,000 are registered. Now, of those, only 40%, which is actually a good turnout, voted in the last election. Of them, 19,155 voted for Mr. Valvadia. Overall, that's about 10% of the voting public. So you're making decisions based on what 10% want you to do. That's not representing our city. I do not always agree with our city manager, especially on outsourcing, but there's a fair person there, one that has been there when we needed her, one that has been available when needed to be talked to. And John, you haven't said one thing or done one thing that you said you were going to in my living room. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hatch. Nancy? Pass. Mike Hartley? Mr. Hartley, welcome.
I was here this morning, of course, at 10 a.m., and I just wanted to say that Andrea's job, to me, is not customer service. I don't want her to have a smile when I talk to her. I don't want her to be cheerful. I really could care less, because when I look at San Bernardino, it's a mess and she's got a big job, okay? All I want is results. And if she gives me results, I like her. Just like any of my employees. I don't have to like them, but I'll tell you what, if they give me results, they have a job. And as far as I'm concerned, I have gotten results from Andrea and her team. And her team runs it well with her. I don't believe they're going to run it as well without her. And that is my feelings, and I'm going to cut this short. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Robert Porter. Mr. Porter, followed by Ms. Davis. Mr. Porter, welcome.
Mayor, council, good people. So I was here earlier today, and I already kind of did my speech. Today I'd like to mention the people that you probably don't hear from very much. I'm not really involved with the city, technically. I'm a side guy who runs his own website and radio show and just gets the good stuff and some of the bad stuff and rumors about the city out into the open air. And quite often since we've received the new city manager, I get complaints from local city workers who feel like they were to, put down or not paid attention to or didn't like the city manager. Some of those people were, escorted off campus here. Whenever she wanted the right people to work under her, she got it. So I think that same thing should be given to the new council. If they choose to have a manager under them that they want, they should get it. Why should they work with someone they don't work well with? That's not going to help San Bernardino in the long run. And I see a lot of people here who I don't see very often, but they're here to speak, right? Well, where were they all those other meetings? And now they lost an election, and they want to come up and complain. Well, join the club, because I've been complaining here for 5 years. And I never got what I wanted, ever. That's how it goes when you lose elections. Elections have consequences. Thank you very much.
Johnetta Davis.
Actually, my name is Johnita Davis. At this morning's meeting, several people spoke in favor of the city manager, Andrea Miller. According to the agreement between the city manager and the city, she can be terminated without cause. However, the city manager cannot be terminated within 60 days prior to and 60 days following an election, unless there is a unanimous vote by the mayor and city council. I suspect that Mayor Valdivia may have already secured the votes for termination of the city manager's contract by the new council members, Teddy Sanchez and Sandra Ibarra. It therefore remains to be objected to by the city council members Charette, Mulvihill, Nickel, and Richard. The question remains, what is the motive of Mayor Valdivia to terminate the city manager? I would strongly recommend that all council members seriously consider the repercussions of voting in favor of the termination of the city manager. You have been voted into office to make the right choices for our city so that we can continue to move forward and become a stronger city. You have not been placed into office to only do the will of those who supported you in your campaign. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Shirley Harlan. Ms. Harlan, welcome.
I didn't expect to be here tonight. I expected to be watching whether our federal government closes down or not. I didn't expect to come to the city to see if it does. This is very strange. Now, you know I've come to many meetings and I've watched the process of the city council and the city. And this is what I speak to. Last night I had a half hour, it was almost last night, because I think the city person that I talked to was probably supposed to be off. But I have been in contact with Andrea about a process of the commissions, and I have had good response and had her let me know what is happening. And it may not be directly with her. I didn't expect to speak directly with her. But I did speak with her staff, and they have had contact with her and came back to me. And we are working on it. And Mayor Valdivia, at an early meeting this last month, I personally spoke with you about your behavior at some of the meetings, and I'm talking about process, about harassing. I think there's something personal that you have between yourself and Andrea. But we need balance in this city. We don't need that kind of cooperation that is we see at our federal level. I am a resident of this city, and I do not want my taxes that I pay to you to go to a termination that's going to cost a lot of money. This woman was hired on August 4th, and in a year she had an evaluation. It says in her contract that there are supposed to be things happening in January, February, and March in terms of meetings to deal with the difficulties in handling between yourselves and management. You just recently got elected of a change from one charter to another. And really, I have observed that you really don't understand that you're policymakers. And I really don't understand, I don't think that also the management of the city understands their role. The other thing I'm concerned with is that I have talked with city employees, and they would like to come and speak out. And you know, I've been a manager, mid-manager, and you don't expect everybody to like what you do. But there are ways within government that we need to balance each other, and we need to help to understand each other's work and to deal with personnel problems. And I think this is a personnel problem that could be dealt with, but over the years, I have not seen the council deal with it. I did the last meeting, and I thank the mayor for doing that. There's much more that could be said, and I'm glad there are some people here, but a lot of people didn't know about this meeting. And one more thing that I just will finish in saying. An election is one thing. And I know that people say things in election that they want to have happen and this kind of thing. After you get elected, it's a different setting. You're not in a constant election mode when you're running a city. We see that at the national level. Let's not have it at this level.
Your time is up.
I thank you very much.
Thank you. Kerry Davis.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. This morning, during the public comment portion of the closed session, I believe 11 speakers came forward to speak in strong support of City Manager Andrea Miller. I believe the meeting was also attended by Mr. Kim, who I believe was the victim of the November 14, 2018 shooting at the Red Tag Marijuana Dispensary on Waterman Avenue, where Mayor John Valdivia had been meeting with Mr. Lee prior to the robbery and shooting. I would like to ask Mayor John Valdivia if the purpose of the meeting was to lobby for preferential treatment for the upcoming awarding of marijuana business licenses. According to the Sun newspaper, over $19,000 was stolen in the robbery sometime after the meeting with Mr. Valdivia and Mr. Lee. I asked the question in order to try and understand the motive for removal of the city manager without cause. The city manager oversees the process for bringing forward recommendations to the City Council for marijuana licenses. And I'm wondering if there is a connection with the proposed action, which is the subject of this evening's closed session. On August 2nd, 2017, the city voted 8-0 to enter into an agreement with City Manager Andrea Miller. 1 year later, she received a very favorable performance evaluation. As I mentioned earlier, over 2,500 new businesses have opened, 2,700 building permits valued at nearly $237 million. Public Works has removed 1.7 million square feet of graffiti. We've repaired more than 1,500 potholes. Public Works has cleared 40 curb street miles of weeds and grass. The customer relationship management system has processed over 28,000 requests. We've hired an additional 33 police officers. These are only a few of the highlights of her accomplishments. As I mentioned earlier, to consider removal of the city manager as one of the first actions of the new mayor and council is reckless, dangerous, and potentially very costly to the citizens and the businesses of the city of San Bernardino. It not only subjects the city to unnecessary financial burdens, but has the potential to damage and thwart the city's ability to attract new businesses, residents, and employees, as previously stated. I respectfully recommend that you discontinue pursuing removal of the city manager. My final question is, have you analyzed the financial cost of your termination of the city manager's employment agreement? If you have, what is that cost? If not, how can you consider the proposed action without knowing the financial cost of your decision? Thank you.
Our next speaker is Patrick Morris. Mr. Morris, welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm in shock. 2 days ago, we were all together in a civic celebration in which I had the honor to take part. We swore in this new city council and this new mayor. With that, we acknowledged the good work of our outgoing city council and mayor and city manager in constructing and executing a plan to emerge from bankruptcy, lay a strategic plan to pay our debts, build a strong fiscal reserve, improve public safety, and rebuild essential infrastructure. In fact, those many in attendance at Sturgis Auditorium stood and gave the outgoing mayor and council a standing ovation for their good works, their stewardship in guiding this city for the past 4 years. And today, 2 days later, political chaos. The precipitous, instantaneous, and unexplained proposed firing of the city manager simply makes no sense. She has guided our city elegantly through these difficult times and is described by all who work with her as a brilliant, collaborative problem solver. This highly respected city manager has not even been given the opportunity to meet with and work with her new city council members. I assure you, this is not what the voters of this city had in mind: a political assassination. It smacks of backroom Brown Act violation and reminds us of the toxic and destructive politics that led to the city's bankruptcy. The city voters finally, in 2013, voted to rid City Hall of the venomous and elected city attorney Jim Penman, who was for a quarter century the source of much of that political chaos. They recalled him and voted for a new charter that modernizes our city and aligns us with the best management practices and structure in California, a modern council-manager form of government. Question: do I smell the ruinous and malicious politics of the sad, power-obsessed, old-time politician reemerging in City Hall? I refer to Mr. Penman, advising and guiding Mr. Valdivia, as together they act as puppeteers of this new city council? God, I hope not. If so, we are headed back to very dark times.
Thank you, sir. Your time is up.
Thank you very much.
Deanie Geller.
I spoke this morning during public comment, and at the risk of repeating myself, I will. But I would add to my comments from this morning that although it may have seemed that I was harsh toward our new two sitting city council members, I am grateful for anyone who steps forward to serve on the city council because it is very often a thankless job. I am smart enough to know that with elections come consequences and change in policies, procedures, and sometimes even personnel. But I was this morning and still am shocked from the meeting on Wednesday when Councilwoman Ibarra, I do not understand how you arrived at the decision to ask for a closed session to review the city manager's contract even before you had time to figure out how to work the microphone. As a person with zero experience in municipal government, one would expect that you would have at least put on a few miles under your belt before making such a significant request. You, Mr. Sanchez, told us at the last City Council meeting that we shouldn't prejudge your intent for calling in a closed session. Borrowing a phrase from my grandmother, we didn't fall off the turnip truck yesterday. Translated, it means we are not that naive or stupid to fall for your explanation as to why a council session was requested, and the evidence is proved as to why it was. Our city manager has the skill and strength to know how to run a lean organization and still produce results. Would I like everything to be accomplished overnight? Sure, but that's unrealistic and irresponsible to expect. Incremental, sustainable improvements are a far greater likelihood of continued success than rushed pie-in-the-sky promises. You may have the authority under her contract to terminate her with or without cause, but the bigger question is, will that be in the best interest of the city and the residents? And the answer to that question is a profound no. I've had the privilege of serving on 2 city commissions, and because of new policies and procedures implemented by our current city manager, my experience on the 2nd commission was vastly improved. This new administration should not be afraid to work with someone just because they served under a previous administration. She is competent, she is professional, and she will, in fact, implement the policies that you put forward. You need not be afraid of that unless you're asking her to do something illegal, immoral, or unethical. Mr. Valdivia, you came across as someone who had great plans, great ideas. Great! Implement them. Make the policy. Let the city manager go forward. There should be no fear of that. If those are your things, I think you think out of the box. I think you could be creative. Use the skills that you have for the good. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Olson, Scott Olson. Welcome, Mr. Olson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm born and raised in the city. I know what it's like to live on the North End. I don't live on the North End anymore. San Bernardino isn't just the North End. San Bernardino is the whole city. And for once, I'm looking at a group of people that I think understand that. Now, I'm going to use a little bit of kind of, I don't know what you call it, the term is. San Bernardino, for the last dozen years, we've had a lot of trees and plants, and they've grown. Some have struggled, some have done very well. But somewhere along the line in the last dozen or so years, we got a few individuals who piled a whole lot of manure on the city. They killed a lot of plants, they killed a lot of trees, and they told us how wonderful it was. They killed the fire department. They killed refuse, a whole lot of things. Now, they didn't suffer. They weren't the ones, they were thriving. Weeds always thrive in the manure. At some point in time, though, manure is toxic, especially when it's raw. Over time, it sits. You have to plow it under. It gets tilled. Because if you don't till the manure under, you can't use it. It's still toxic. You guys, by the votes, it's very clear there's a mandate. All of the residents of the city of San Bernardino, except for a few that have been thriving over the last 10 years and enjoying what's been going on, they want things plowed under. You hold the opportunity. We still have a lot of good plants. They can show a lot of good fruit. They can grow. If they get fertilizer instead of just raw manure. You also hold the seeds of change. Plant those seeds in fertile soil, not in the manure. You were elected by the people, of the people, and for the people. All of the people of San Bernardino. Not just a select few whose zip code or street addresses or bank accounts or history in this city gave them the advantage to basically ignore the rest of the city. Now, as for who goes and who stays, every election suffers reality. I don't know who's going to go or stay, and quite honestly, I voted and put my faith in those I wanted to do what they were going to do. You have barely been in office for 48 hours, and I see the same individuals who supported the past up here already being negative, already criticizing, already insulting you. Get used to it, it's normal. They criticized me, insulted me, ignored me for years, just like a lot of us. Please, give everybody the same fair opportunity. Thank you.
Let's have Barbara Babcock. Ms. Babcock, welcome.
John, you are one of a kind. Two instances I want to remember that we spent together. One was the night that the charter was passed. Do you remember that and where we were? We were at the Republican Big Shot Club out in Ontario. And oh my gosh, the look on your face when it lost. I had two best friends with me, Cassie Levy, who is a staunch Republican, watching right now from Paducah, and Kathy Watson, who is as Democratic. She keeps thinking she's going to convert me to be a Democrat. I go, not going to happen. I was 14 before I knew damn Democrat was two words. That was one time. Then we went to lunch. Remember that? It was a very memorable lunch because he called and picked me up. I was like shocked. John wants to have lunch with me. Well, I knew you were running, so I wasn't surprised. And I picked up an old, I couldn't find my regular notebook. You know exactly where I'm going. And I'm going to beat up on you in a minute, okay? So I'm starting off nice. I grabbed an old notebook I had never used before. And we were sitting at Mikachina in Highland. And all of a sudden, two roaches run across the table. You nearly lost it. You just went ballistic. So I grabbed my thing. I said, let me take my phone. Got to have my phone. Can't live without my phone. And wrapped it up in a trash bag in my little notebook that I had never used. You were still nervous. I keep on singing La Cucaracha when I see you. And we had a good talk because we had a lot of things in common. We had both done some work with SmithKline Glaxo. And it was very memorable. But John, I just have to tell you the truth. You're a bully. You are a bully. You have bullied me. The night at the Home of Neighborly Service, I had never met your wife formally. And I says, John, I have not met your wife. And you go, darling, this is the mean woman, Barbara Babcock, that says all those nasty things about me. They're actionable, Barbara. You know what? I lost my $1 million. Sue me. Bring it on. You've bullied Carolyn Conley on Facebook, and you have even bullied police officers. It's not acceptable. It's just not. My heart weeps for my city because I see it going in a direction that has me scared to death. regarding Andrea Travis Miller. I've been real involved in arts since the time I was 3 years of age. Soloed with my first professional symphony when I was 8 years of age. I got to know Andrea because we worked on some stuff with the fine arts. Of course, she doesn't have time to talk to everybody. I used to talk to her all the time. I may have called her twice in the last year or so. I used to love just to run into her office. I remember when you left Andrea the very first time, and you went and talked with the rank and file. They were in tears. They trusted you. And you may not be Miss Nice to everybody. You know what? That's not your job. It's to get it done, and you do it well, and I thank you.
Thank you. Paul Sanborn? Mr. Sanborn, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. Let me get my stuff out here. First, I want to start off by telling you, anybody could outsource things in this city to get things going. You know, you look at the fire department, look what it's cost us, Burtech, a good company, but yet on the same token too, rates have gone up. Cops, we're still paying for 40, we only got 33 according to Mr. Davis and whatnot. 5,000 code enforcement tickets, etc., whatever. Mr. Sines, I don't know what you're doing with them. Supposedly they haven't been addressed, you know. Plan checking, that's gone. The dog pound, she doesn't want that dog pound, you know. Truthfully, what she's saying is city employees are not capable enough to do their jobs. And that's the bottom line of it. You know, we have a new council. They're young, energetic. Give them a chance. Us older people are not going to be here forever, Fred. I'm 76. I'm older than you are and whatnot. And it's their town now. They're young. They're coming up. They got a town to live in the future. You guys make your own decision. Don't let these people sit here and come in here and try to. They're the bullies. Listen to them tonight. Listen to them well. This city's going to get up and going. John's going to go to China. He's not going for vacation. He's going to bring back some people between me and you and business. Thank you.
Sandra Owen Olivas. Ms. Olivas, welcome.
Good evening, new mayor and council members. My name is Sandra Owen Olivas. I live in the First Ward. Okay, I want to start with one thing because this really is starting to get on my nerves. Everybody says we're going back to the Pittman era. Okay, who kept Pittman in office for 20 years? There was not a fireman or a police officer standing at your door making you vote for him or at the polls. So stop blaming Mr. Pittman for everything, for God's sakes, okay? Why don't some of these residents take responsibility for what you did for 20 years? If you didn't want him there, you should have voted him out before. Just an opinion. The next things are also my personal opinion, what my observations have been, and this is where I'm going to go with it. You know, whatever. I have my own opinions about the city manager. My first thing that really upset me is that how she treats the other two elected officials in this city like they don't even exist. I was angry when I found out Gary Sines' office had been outsourced. Very upset. And now I'm just waiting for the city clerk's office to be outsourced next. That has showing no respect for the fact that the voters voted for Gary Sines to be their city attorney. Very disrespectful. The condescending attitude that she has towards residents. We live here. We pay taxes here. I wasn't for the charter change anyway. I liked it the other way. I guess that's probably that's no secret either. The firing of Mark Pasico. I worked with Mark when Mark first came to the city before oh yeah, that's right, she abandoned us in 2013, I forgot that. But I worked with Mark Pasico on 2 commissions that I sat on in this city. Mark was a great guy. And never forget, we did not have the funds to start the food truck event. Mark used his credit cards to bring those food trucks in the first time. And she fired him. And like I said, in 2013, I don't know the reasons why or whatever, because nobody ever knows, which Sandra and Theodore are going to find out. You don't know all the backstories to why things go on at City Hall, because a lot of it is confidential. You'll get your files, I'm sure. But then Mark Scott came in. Mark Scott said that he would stay if the charter passed, brought her in as assistant city manager. He was leaving no matter what. I call BS on that one as well. This last election was a wake-up call. I was sitting where a lot of these people were sitting 4 years ago. I wasn't happy with the changes, but you go with the flow. This was a wake-up call. There are 2 people sitting on this council that need to really stop and think about how you treat the citizens of this city. We may not live in your ward, but the votes you take affect us. And I am so sick of hearing there's 3 lights out up in the 7th ward on Broadmoor, blah, blah, blah. I've got 1 street light on my street. Was promised 2 more 2 years ago, and they're still not there. So quit crying. Do what you got to do. Maybe you jumped the gun a little bit too fast, Sandra, okay? I'm just saying. Okay? Just an opinion. And Theodore, I think you really need to come and get to know me a little bit.
Thank you, Ms. Olivas.
Thank you.
Ms. Hart, Linda Hart, welcome.
Mayor, City Council, being a resident in San Bernardino for over 50 years, I want to say that I applaud the new City Council members in your efforts and in your courage to do what you're doing today. Again, don't let anyone influence your decision to do what you feel is right and you have the right to do. From my understanding, I understand that the City Council and the Mayor, you have the right to change guards if you want. As an employee myself, if there is a worker that I feel that is not part of the team, well, what do? Do you keep them on or do you fire them? So that's the decision that I feel that you have today. Whether or not you really truly feel that you have a team that's going to be loyal to move us forward. I'm not here to criticize anyone because I'm about moving forward. In order to do that, sometimes we have to make those changes. I live in the 6th ward for basically all my life. And if we're talking about changes, much haven't changed in the 6th ward for us. So if anyone can really have an opinion to say about results, there haven't been many results in our ward. If we came to the City Council many times and talked about our streets not being paid, I looked at the new the CIP, and still, when we talk about equity, it's not even in the CIP. So today, I applaud you stepping out, Mayor, City Council, and doing what you feel is the best thing to do for the city of San Bernardino so we can continue to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I have an email request. Ms. Karina Cornejo, is she in the audience? Welcome.
Before I speak, I wanted to say thank you to Mr. Hatch. I have not forgotten all of your service to the Sheriff's Department. Thank you for everything you've done for this county.
John, when we get to that point, I got an email from a resident.
Okay, sure. Welcome.
Welcome. Good evening, all. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I am a resident of the 4th Ward, and I'm here today because I'm concerned about the actions being proposed in tonight's agenda. The termination of the city manager would be detrimental to the growth of our city. Per the agenda, Ms. Miller's termination within 60 days of a vote will likely trigger litigation that the city simply cannot afford from either a financial or administrative position. I find it hard to understand why the mayor would want to do something that will hurt the city's precarious financial situation. The checks and balances that a council manager government provides is in our best interest. This system was voted on and approved by the voters that you serve. The appearance of the mayor being opposed to that accountability is worrisome and should probably be questioned. I would like to remind the city's elected officials that the residents of the city voted for them to guide them through our complex situation, not contribute to it. The recent election has demonstrated that we, the residents of the city of San Bernardino, want change. The adoption of the new city charter in 2016 is part of that change. Council members should respect the decisions made by the voters and work within its parameters. All three of the newly elected officials have stated that they want to be a guiding force in that change. We welcome you and ask that you stand by your words and not act in your personal interests. Mr. Valdivia in particular stated that he would lead with honesty and integrity. None of that is evident in the way that this matter is being handled. The mayor, I feel, is using his position to carry out a personal vendetta against Ms. Miller. He was against her appointment from the beginning. Backroom deals and hidden agendas have no place in the growth of our city. We deserve and demand better. The lack of transparency exhibited in calling this meeting is shameful. As a matter as serious as this should be tabled until all 7 council meetings have been filled, and not when the mayor, who is the possible winning vote in this, is the swing vote. The public is best served when elected officials do their jobs openly, honestly, and selflessly. Lastly, I would like to address all of the council members. Thank you all for your service. Thank you all for everything that you do for this city. Ladies and gentlemen, you were elected by the voters of your wards to do right by them. You asked for the opportunity to be our voice, and we granted it to you. Every single one of you stated that you would do your job honestly and with the residents' best interest. I ask you all to remember that you best serve the public by putting aside your personal differences and working together. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mulvihill?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Valdivia. I have an email from Esmeralda Negrete, resident of the 7th Ward, that she wanted me to read. As a resident of the 7th Ward, I support the decision of the Council and Mayor Valdivia to review the contract of Andrea Miller. In my opinion, Ms. Miller's contract should have been for 1 year. While it is true that 27,478 voters voted in favor of the new charter, please keep in mind that there are concerns related to what was presented at the multiple charter meetings. It appears that the presentations do not align 100% with what the voters were led to believe would be the outcome of adopting the new charter. As a voter and a resident of San Bernardino, I believe it is vital for our mayor to have the ability to be more than a tiebreaker or someone who appoints others to various committees and commissions. Our elected San Bernardino Mayor, Mr. Valdivia, and elected council should be given the ability to decide who will serve as city manager over the next 4 years. Thank you for your time, and have a Merry Christmas, respectively, Mrs. Negrete. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we will recess in a closed session. So we are back from closed session, and Mr. City Attorney.
There is no reportable action.
This meeting is adjourned.